So let's dive in. The first thing that we need to discuss when it comes to pre and post workout nutrition is fasted versus fed training. Which one is really better? Now, I can tell you, if you look at all the scientific research studies, there's no definitive answer. Both fasted and fed training can and do work, and ultimately you should use the method that you prefer. Now, there are pros and cons to each, and I want to cover them, and then I'm going to share the strategies that I personally use and we use with our private paying clients. And then up here, you're going to see a column for fasted and a column for fed, and the particular goals and benefits. So if the goal is to burn fat, I highly recommend, if you can tolerate it, that you train in a fasted state, because doing so mimics things like intermittent fasting, because when you train intensely and you're fasted, it kicks up your body's sympathetic nervous system because your insulin is very, very low. And this releases catecholamines from your adrenal glands, which have been shown to release fatty acids from fat cells into your bloodstream where they can be delivered to working tissue and burned off. And it also helps release more growth hormone from the pituitary gland. Now, I know this is an acute response, so the debate is up whether that's effective or not, but it definitely can't hurt. But just understand that when you release these hormones, your body is much more likely to burn stored fat as a fuel source. Now, conversely, if your goal is to burn fat and you go into the workout in a fed state, you're going to burn a lot less fat during that workout. Now, this logically makes sense. If you feed yourself, you're digesting that food, your body immediately has access to use it as an energy source, and because you're raising insulin from that food, all these things are going to hinder the fat loss process. Now, this leads us to the next one, which is energy and performance and muscle gains. Now, if we look at the logical thing here, if you're going into the workout in a fasted state and you want more energy and performance, or you want to gain muscle, the only energy that you have is stored inside your muscle and liver tissue to use. So that's going to decrease your energy and performance, and it's also going to decrease your body's ability to build muscle because you're taking it from those areas. Whereas, if you go into the workout in a fed state, energy and performance and muscle gains are going to be radically higher, because now you're giving your body all the nutrients it needs to increase muscle protein synthesis. Not to mention, eating that food an hour or two before the workout is going to increase insulin, and insulin is very anabolic. So although it can slow down fat loss, it actually speeds up muscle gains. Now let's talk about what you should eat and the windows of time you should use pre and post workout based on your goal of losing fat or gaining muscle. Let's talk about pre-workout first. As I just discussed, because of the hormonal benefits and your body's ability to use more stored fat during the workout, training in a fasted state is what I recommend. Now, what's that time frame? Well, it should be at least 3 or more hours after a meal, because every time that you eat, not only do you have to digest and start absorbing this food, you also increase insulin. And in the presence of higher insulin levels, not only does it slow down fat loss, it prevents or blocks your body from releasing the fat-burning hormones that I just discussed, the adrenaline, the catecholamines, and the growth hormone. Now, there's debate up on elevated insulin levels, because a lot of people will say, you can't lose weight if your insulin's elevated. Now, this isn't necessarily true. They've done a study where they took 2 groups of dieters with the same exact calorie intake and exercise plan. One group was injected with insulin, and they lost just as much weight as the other group. So the key here is what happens during the workout and the hormonal effect that takes place, because if insulin is elevated during an intense workout, it will hinder and block your body's ability to release stored fat cells and use them as a fuel source while you're working out. So something to keep in mind. Now, if your goal is to gain muscle, I highly recommend about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the workout, so you have a chance to get some of that food in your system, you have a protein in a fruit. The reason I recommend a protein in a fruit is because the fruit is going to be a faster acting and absorbing carbohydrate that you can use for immediate energy. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have a protein and a starch pre-workout. I think that is fine. I just think that a fruit is a better, more immediate energy source, and you can also have it sooner before the workout, and it's not really going to affect your digestive system like a heavy starch will. So I prefer a high protein shake and a piece of fruit, because I know I'm giving my body the energy it needs to get through the workout, and the protein is providing my muscles with everything they need to build and repair. Now let's dive into post-workout nutrition and the so-called magic window. And science over the last several years has kind of busted the myth about this gym bro science where we gotta go get our protein shake and our carbs right after a workout or we're gonna lose muscle and go catabolic. Well, research shows this is not necessarily the case. Nutrient partitioning, in other words, your body's ability to store and replenish liver and muscle tissue, is greatly enhanced for exactly 2 hours after the workout. And when we look at the research studies, it shows at that 2-hour mark is when your body's ability to absorb those nutrients can decrease by up to 50%. So it's in your best interest just to make sure that within 2 hours after the workout, you're getting the nutrients that you need. Now, if your goal is to lose fat, I recommend you wait that 90 to 120 minutes after the workout, because if it's intense and you trained in a fasted state, you released all the hormones that are going to burn stored fat. And so I recommend you ride the fat burning wave. Now, if you're starving and you're adequately hydrated and you know you're just hungry, listen to your body. But if you have a lot of stored body fat, this is a great trick to use, is to ride that fat burning wave afterwards. Now, if your goal is to gain muscle, I highly recommend you eat whenever you want. Just make sure it's within that 2-hour mark after the workout. Now, research shows one of the best ratios you can use is a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. So an example would be 40 grams of protein and 120 grams of carbs. Now, keep in mind, this is if the goal is to gain muscle. I hardly ever consume this unless it's a weekend where I'm intentionally carb loading for reasons I'm going to share in future videos based on my RG rip triangle here. But the science shows that if you combine a combination of glucose and fructose together with protein after the workout within that 2-hour window, that you're going to increase glycogen resynthesis, or your body's ability to absorb these nutrients, even further with that combination of glucose and fructose. This is why I often say maybe a banana, like a mildly ripe banana, is the perfect post-workout choice because it has a combination of glucose and fructose together, and it's one of the only fruits that as it ripens, it has a combination of both. But ideally, what I would do personally is I have a high-quality shake or protein source with a high-quality starch and just a piece of fruit of some kind. This way, you're getting both the glucose and the fructose. You're taking advantage of that 2-hour window, and then you're taking advantage of this glycogen resynthesis that you have. And all of this combined together should create a compound effect that over time will help you slowly gain muscle. Okay, so I want to close out this video by giving you some context on these guidelines, because ultimately that's really what they are, is they're just guidelines. So if something up here doesn't agree with your body, listen to your body, because at the end of the day, as long as you have the dynamic duo in place and you're getting adequate protein intake, you're keeping your body in a calorie deficit, and of course you should add some exercise into that equation. But those two things alone should help the scale move down over time. So lastly, it's one thing to learn this information. It's another thing to apply it consistently into your life to lose the stubborn fat and to keep it off. And that's why we've recently launched our fat loss coaching program. So you'll see a link below in the description. If you're truly serious about transforming your body and building long-term habits, click that link, fill out an application, and we'll jump on a call. And this is for serious inquiries only, not tire kickers, because it's not inexpensive. But what we do is we teach you how to implement the RG Rip Grandpa Triangle by focusing on the dynamic duo, consistently building hormonal entrainment, and implementing strategic exercise, all customized for you, your age, your gender, your current condition, and your long-term goals. So thanks for watching this. Time is our most precious commodity. Always grateful when people take time to watch my videos. Thanks for watching, and keep going strong.